let's,
dig up trees underground utilities?
all right, we talk about trees later. Let's get this meeting started. Let's call to order. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Dina Kondo-Dimitraki.
Here.
Brent Todd.
Here.
David Fox.
Here.
Jeffrey Santa Cruz.
Here.
Amanda Savage.
Here.
Matthew Hicks.
Here.
And Richard Woodfin.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum. Let's open the meeting. Again, this is the meeting, this is the June 18th meeting of the Concord City Planning Board. The first item on the agenda is approval of the April minutes. I was not present at the April meeting, so I will recuse myself from any voting, but we have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And that would be the May minutes.
That would be the May minutes as opposed to the April minutes. Yes, I'm sorry. So the May minutes have been approved. Yes, that's right. Quick agenda overview, if anybody's here, for item 6A, which is a major site plan for 15 Perimeter Road, and item 9G, a minor subdivision for 227 Garvin's Falls Road. Those items have been pulled from the agenda at the request of the applicant and will be heard at a later date. I don't know if they'll be next month or not, but they'll be noticed again.
No,
they will not be noticed. So if you're here for those, watch the agenda for next month, and they should be back on.
And we need a motion to continue.
Yep. So if we could have a motion, someone like to make a motion to continue those two, to continue them, or
Yep, continue to a date certain.
to date certain. Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Design review applications by consent. If anyone's here regarding any applications for items 5A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and you'd like to pull those items for further discussion or have any concerns, if you could make yourself known. If not, I'm going to pull item 5G from the consent agenda. Any member of the board have any questions or concerns about any of the other applications? No? So we could take a motion to accept under under the design review applications by consent, items 5A through 5F. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those applications with architectural design review comments as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and roundly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item 5G, Father and Daughter Customs LLC requests architectural design review approval for an existing non-permitted 21 square foot illuminated window sign at 158 North Main Street in the Central Business Performance District. We've got several notes regarding architectural design review comments. Is the applicant here? Okay, so my recommendation is that we follow architectural design review's application to deny this application. Again, it is a sign that's already been put up without any review, and we're going to deny the application. Again, I'm making a recommendation to deny the application, have it redesigned. Would someone like to second that?
Second.
Recommendation? Okay, so any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that motion carries, and item 5G is denied. We'll move right on to determination of completeness by consent in our packets under item 6A, Keach Nordstrom Associates. Continued, sorry.
1 month off. And we
Extensions, I know. Wait, it's early yet. It's only a minute or two in. There'll be a couple of those. So we've got extensions by request, by consent, items 7A and 7B. Should we read those into the record, Anne Marie?
Sure.
All right, let's take them both. No, actually, no, they're by consent. We've all seen them and read them. Anybody have any questions or concerns about those two applications? Again, 7A or 7B? Nope. If not, we can take a motion to approve those extensions by consent. If someone would like to make it. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. That's the end of our consent agenda item. Brings us on to our public hearing section. So let's move on to item 9. If we could read item 9A into the record.
Jeffrey Kelly, on behalf of Moore Real Estate Holdings LLC and Allison Street Holdings LLC, request approvals for minor site plan application and certain waivers from the site plan regulations to convert an office to an apartment in an existing building containing 2 existing apartments at tax map lot 644Z54, addressed as 63 School Street in the Civic Performance District. The application was continued a few months, but it is complete. It has all the variants it needs, so we can get a motion to determine it complete and open the public hearing.
I believe it's not a development of regional impact, so there is a determination of completeness component. Staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Here, motion passes and we are open. Welcome back to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Sure, John Arnold from Warren Reno, representing the applicant.
Great. Tell us a little bit about this, John.
I'm just going to be very brief. This is a residential property at 63 School Street. Historically was residential. At some point in fairly recent years, there was an office created within the house. My client bought the property a little less than a year ago, wanted to convert that office space back to a residential unit. They pulled a building permit from the city. They've done the conversion. It's now a residential unit. After the fact, during final walkthrough, city determined that they should have required site plan approval before granting the building permit. So we have applied after the fact for the site plan approval. We've been to the zoning board for 2 variances. A variance because the lot is non-conforming in terms of lot size and frontage. Those are both granted by the ZBA. There aren't any exterior changes proposed, no site work, no impervious surface. The property as it looks today from the outside remains exactly the same. Just the interior space that was converted from residential to office is now being converted back to residential.
Okay, seems pretty straightforward. Any questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, so in our packets, again, we have findings, we use a findings of fact, the information that we heard here tonight, testimony we heard here tonight, as well as the information that is in your packet for this application. Okay, so 9.2 in your packet, again, granting the waiver request below from the listed section of site plan regulations. We have sections 12, 13, and 15, and the waivers are outlined in your packet. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the waivers as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9.3 is to grant minor site plan approval for the conversion of an office unit to a dwelling unit within a building addressed at 63 School Street as submitted, thus establishing a 5th dwelling unit at the parcel, subject to the following, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1, 2, and 3, subsequent conditions 1 through 7. Would someone like to make a motion to grant minor site plan approval as outlined?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You are all set. Thank you. Okay, let's move on in our agenda to item 9B, if we could read that into the record.
Wilcox and Barton, on behalf of Braden R. and Kelsey E. Clothier, request approval
Try.
for a minor subdivision, a conditional use permit for section 28-4-3D, conditional use permits required for certain disturbance of wetland buffer, to disturb the wetland buffer, and certain waivers from the subdivision regulations to divide the site into 2 lots at tax map lot 42Z28, addressed Curtisville Road in the open space residential district.
Okay,
May not get my pretty picture.
let's get a quick staff update, if we could, on this.
Staff update. So this was, it was continued from last month to this month. to address incomplete items. It is completely complete. It is just a
Completely complete.
completely complete. It is a pretty straightforward, just dividing the site into 2 lots. It went to Conservation Commission for the conditional use permit for disturbing the wetland buffer. They recommended approval as submitted, and there are certain waivers being requested. Staff has reviewed those and is in support of the waivers being requested.
Why is it unaddressed? Curtisville's a pretty,
I don't know, just doesn't have an address yet.
Good question.
it's like what?
Second month in a row, I think. we've
Yeah,
had an address
it's
permit.
unusual. Welcome back to the table. If you could, what's it been, a month?
Let's get
evening.
a
Whoops.
motion for.
Sorry, determination of completeness, not a development of regional impact.
Yeah.
Staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact. I believe we have a motion to approve that and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We'll open the public hearing. Welcome back to the table.
Good evening. My name is Erin Lambert with Wilcox and Barton. I'm here on behalf of Braden and Kelsey Cloutier, requesting a subdivision of this parcel on Curtisville Road. As the chairman noted, it's not numbered. It is an 11.6 acre parcel on the south side of Curtisville Road, just before the power lines. As you can see from the picture, 11.6 acres does not have as much buildable land as we had hoped, but it does qualify for 2 lots. So they would be divided into lot 28, which would be 6.3 acres, and lot 28-1, which would be located next to the power lines, would be 5.3 acres. The buildable land on the first lot is in the rear, and that is what necessitates our request for a CUP to disturb wetland buffer. Of the 11.6 acres, I wrote the number down because it caught my eye. 4.75 is the wetland, and that doesn't include the buffers, and then obviously the land in the middle that we can't get to. So the buildable land is in the lower left corner. There is a way to sneaky driveway in 10 feet off the property line. We don't need to disturb the wetlands, but we do need to disturb the wetland buffer. It's just over 3,000 square feet. We did go before the Conservation Commission, and they didn't have any comments or concerns on our request. And then the other lot would have direct access off of Curtisville Road. The waivers that we're requesting, the first one is for underground power. All of the houses on the road, because they're sited pretty close to the road, just have the power coming off the poles, so we're asking for a waiver from the subdivision regulations to allow that. And then the others are, because it's such a large parcel, it's on a 60 scale plan, so the surveyor created 2 plans. This is sheet 1 and 2. The second sheet, the topographic plan, has more detail on it, including the topo. And that does have all the required information in terms of the buildable area, the 4K box, the protective radius, as well as the topography. So thank you in advance for your consideration of those waivers, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions? Jeff?
I took a ride out there, and one concern I have is site distance. I don't know if you've taken a look at that. I know it's a subdivision plan, not a site plan, but what I'm worried about is, you know, you're showing wetland buffers and stuff, and if for some reason the driveway would have had to shift to meet site distance requirements or whatnot, you know, and I also noticed the driveway width is not called out at all on the plan. So I only asked this, and I know you're looking at me, I understand it's not a subdivision, but
No.
you're showing buffers and it doesn't have all the dimensional that clarify the buffer impacts.
Well, the subdivision itself has a condition of approval to submit a driveway plan, and all of those items are addressed in the driveway plan. So they have to show all of that as part of one of their precedent conditions.
Okay, I guess where my concern is that if we're approving this and we're approving this buffer impact and they can't meet those, does that mean they just will have to come back again, or
Yeah,
if they can't meet site
if they
distance,
can't
let's
meet
say
where it
that
is.
location? Because they're asking for, it's on a corner, there's a lot of trees as you look left.
So the driveway will actually extend out to meet the road. So this plan was included to demonstrate at a better scale the scope of the wetland buffer disturbance. The driveway is 12 feet in accordance with regulations. So the driveway technically will extend out here to connect to the road. And then most of those criteria are easily met because the site's pretty flat. So it's making sure that we have the platform and we don't exceed slopes, but it's all quite flat. So while we haven't prepared the profile, because we don't typically do that, we will.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, the trees go right up near to the edge of the road, so what I'm just curious, unless you're given permission, I guess, to cut trees within the city's right away to meet site distance, I'm just want to make sure that we're not going to be back relocated.
To get a building permit, they would need a driveway permit first. We would not approve a driveway permit if that was the case.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure the applicant's aware that there is an issue they may deal with, and they might be back in front of us for a different wetland impact if they have to
And
move.
I think the way the condition is, they have to, the precedent condition is to present the driveway plan meeting all of the criteria, and if they can't, then they've got to adjust the driveway so that they can. They don't need to come back before the board for that.
If the driveway has to move and they have more impact of buffer, wouldn't they have to come back?
Yes, if we're not able to put the driveway here for some reason, which we would make every intention to do so, we would then be in a situation where we need to get a wetland permit, so we would have to go back through the process.
I just want to make sure we're all on that same page, that we understand that.
We agree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
Question,
Yep.
does it have the distance of the length of the driveway? I'm sorry, I missed, because it is going to be set back in the back of the property.
No, because we don't have the house location yet, so the subdivision plan would typically not have the length of the actual
Okay.
driveway.
Okay.
Other questions? Do you member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, any further discussion, comments, questions from the board, from staff, anything? No? Okay, again, using as our findings of fact is the testimony we heard here tonight, the information and the materials submitted as part of our packet. Architectural design review didn't weigh in with any issues, and not necessary, excuse me, and Conservation Commission recommended approval. So in our piece of this, under 9.2, is to grant the waiver requests below from the listed sections of the subdivision regulations based on evidence provided showing the criteria RSA 674-36-2N and section 3508 of the subdivision regulations are met, and those are outlined in section 1208-22 and section 1503-1 for abutting properties, section 1503-10 for site improvements, 1504-3 for topography, 1503-4 for wells, and 26021 for non-municipal utilities. Would someone like to make a motion to grant those waiver requests as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9.3 is to grant the conditional use permit from section 2843D. Conditional use permits required for certain disturbances of wetland buffers. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9.4 is to grant minor subdivision approval for a two-lot subdivision of tax map lot 42Z28 unaddressed Curtisville Road, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1A through K, and 2 through 6, and subsequent conditions 1 through 8. Would someone like to make a motion to approve that minor subdivision as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. You're all set. Good luck. No plumbing buildings out there, right?
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure, 'cause,
All right, let's read 9C. Let's read item 9C into the agenda if we could.
GZA Geo-Environmental Inc., on behalf of Public Service Company of New Hampshire, AKA Eversource Energy, requests approval for conditional use permit applications for section 28-3-3F, conditional use permit required for disturbance of buffers in the SP, otherwise known as the Shoreland Protection District. Section 28-4-3D, conditional use permits required for certain disturbance of wetland buffers, and Section 28-8-4D, conditional use permits required for certain disturbance of bluffs and buffers, to disturb shoreland buffers, wetland buffers, and bluff buffers for the 334G distribution line structure replacement project at tax map lot 89Z14, Garvin Falls Road in the Office Performance District and Open Space Residential District.
Shoreline protection. Who knew? Is the applicant here? So let's get a staff update on this if we could.
Sure. This is for 3 separate conditional use permits. When we go through any action, we'll treat them each separately. We are recommending you determine this complete and a regional impact. We received comments from the Central New Hampshire Regional Commission. They had nothing new to add. I've talked a little bit with the applicant about some of the recommended conditions. I'll let them touch on it more, but when it comes time to take action, we may have some changes from what staff recommended, which I am tentatively in support of as we discussed today.
Okay. So again, staff has determined the application completed is a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, a development of regional impact, and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Dina seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are open. Welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
I'll go first. I'm Connor Madison from GZA Geoenvironmental.
And Jacob Wapazeski from Eversource.
All right, tell us a little bit about this project.
Sure. So, as noted, we are here for 3 conditional use permit applications. So this is for structure replacement work off the 334 distribution line. Currently, they're wood. Every year, Eversource inspects their lines and they look for wood rot, insect damage, water damage, woodpecker holes. This year, the 334G did trigger 23 poles across Bow, Concord, and Pembroke to be replaced with steel. In the city of Concord, we are hoping to replace 6 utility poles that are all off of Garvin's Falls Road, which is, it goes from Garvin's Falls and then it goes to the Merrimack on the east side of the Merrimack River.
To the shore.
To the shoreland, the SP. So this is pole replacement, no clearing of trees, no additional distribution lines, no additional transmission lines. The unique part of this project that I have been discussing with Alec pretty extensively today, I feel like, but that there is no proposed ground disturbance, so no grading. So there is a current road that goes about 400 feet out that we will be utilizing. It's an existing gravel road. And then from there on out, any proposed access or work areas will be upland matted with timber matting. So that is both uplands and for wetlands. So we are proposing temporary impacts to the shoreland buffer, to the bluff buffer, and then to wetlands and wetland buffers. Those mats will be removed upon completion of this project. No grading will take place. We also have some state permits. I'm just going to run through. We have a state wetlands permit and a state alteration of terrain permit for Bow, Pembroke, and Concord.
Okay. Let's get an update on the regional impact information that you mentioned.
Central New Hampshire gave us some comments back, the only comments we received, and they pretty much deferred to our local fire department, planning board agencies that have already provided comment, had no comments.
Okay.
And then the applicant will touch more into it, but I think what we're going to do is the applicant may be seeking a waiver from requiring a licensed engineer to sign and seal the plans, and this will dovetail into one of the requirements for the conditional use permit with the buffer to the bluffs. I'll let you touch on that a little bit, and then if if the board is amenable to that, I have some potential language as we get closer to any action.
All right. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, so we had kind of 2 points that we wanted to bring up. The first one was that section 12.032 that requires that professional engineer. So we would be requesting a waiver For that section, the 12.03, parentheses 2, this pertains to the zoning ordinance 28-4-4-C. The proposed project does not require grading, drainage, or utilities. Therefore, we don't believe that a professional engineer is required to sign and seal the plans.
Okay, staff?
Yep. And where this, I support that, and I think a waiver would be the way to go, just to make it very clear if there's any different interpretation in the future. Where this falls into play with section 24.4D of the conditional use permits for the buffer to bluff is that it also states that, and this is within the purview of the planning board upon granting your CUP, but it states that if there are erosion control measures, that plan shall be prepared by a licensed professional engineer. So part of the understanding is that in your granting of this conditional use permit and this waiver, that you are understanding that you are granting the CUP without the plan having been prepared by a licensed engineer, even though it includes erosion control measures.
Is staff comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
One of engineering's
Duly noted.
comments is for them to prepare or to provide a broken out erosion control plan in cleaning up some of those details. You'll find that is the precedent, some of our precedent conditions of the project.
Okay. Okay, and the applicants amiable
Yep,
to that?
we're more than
obviously?
happy. I didn't touch on erosion controls, but it'll primarily be silt sock and then silt fence along the Merrimack. So more than happy to break that out into a separate plan.
Okay, all right. Does that change anything as far as the?
When we
When we
come
get there?
to action, we'll have to tiptoe around
Just
that.
saying,
a bit,
yep, okay.
I did have a couple additional, if you didn't mind.
Go ahead.
The second one was that easement, the section 12.06, parentheses 2. I believe in the narrative that we did discuss that the 334G has easements through Concord. This work is all located within a Concord-owned parcel. That was, sorry, yes, totally different. Within an Eversource-owned parcel, that was kind of a relic from when we went to Bow and Pembroke. So all of this work is within the Eversource property boundary. There are no easements in this situation.
So you wouldn't need the easement, so 12062 can be struck from this?
Correct.
Okay. Oy, I'm getting used to this new iPad. All right, sorry. Okay, what else?
The last one, I don't know if it's too pertinent here, but I just wanted to discuss the excavation permit. The engineer said that we will need to obtain an excavation permit, judging that all of this work is on Eversource-owned property, as well as there's no grading as discussed since we are installing upland matting. I just wanted to get either more information or discuss that,
Yeah,
but I can
don't
do
know
that
if
at a
that's-
later date.
that's away from us. so-
Totally fine by me.
Okay. Anything else?
That should be it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from staff? No? Good?
Nope,
Okay.
we support with everything that's been
Questions from the
discussed.
board? No? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns? Oh, 5 people? Nope. Okay, so we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Let's move along here on the application. Oy. Getting longer and longer. 7, 8.
That's because it has,
It's got a
3.
bunch, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I
I
got you.
apologize for confusion.
Okay, so all the way to, I don't know what page this is, 15? 14? 13? Okay, so findings of fact. So we'll use our, she's got to start looking for number 9. Just keep it number 9 for
Yep.
me consistently, and then.
number 9.
Perfect. That's
That's all you
awesome.
need to look
That's
for.
awesome. Again, using the information we heard here tonight, the information that's presented in your packet as our findings of fact to make our decisions. We will look at the first item to grant the conditional use permit, PL-CUP 2025-009 for disturbance of wetland buffer for the replacement of existing utility structures 250, 251, and 252, consisting of a total of 6 utility pole structures. I didn't ask, are these going to be the same height?
They will be,
Thank you. Okay, so granting the conditional use permit comes with some precedent and subsequent conditions. We've got precedent conditions 1A through H, 2 through 2A through G, and number 3, and subsequent conditions 1 through 8. Would someone like to make a motion
Before
to,
we
whoops, yes, go ahead, sorry.
May
Yep.
I may interrupt, Chair. If we first, I'd like to entertain the notion of the waiver the applicant requested during the public hearing
Yep.
from section 12032 of the site plan regulations to not require a licensed professional engineer to prepare, sign, and seal all plans where grading, drainage, and utility information is proposed. And as part of this action, determined to not require a licensed land engineer to prepare a plan as part of your findings when granting conditional use permit approval in accordance with section 24(4)D of the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Got that? All right. And where does that fall in our
If we want to
numbering?
take action on that, because that may impact the precedent conditions of the application,
Okay.
the first CUP.
So do we do that as a condition, or do we do that as a
A standalone, because,
9.11?
yep, a 9.11.
9.11, so you got the verbiage from Alec, right, Krista? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to approve? Is it a condition of approval, or is it a standalone
This is a waiver.
waiver? Standalone waiver. Someone like to make a motion to approve that waiver as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now, I already read them into the record before, and to grant the conditional use permit for all the precedent and subsequent conditions, does that change anything in those precedent and subsequent conditions that I read into the record?
Yep, so for that
Okay.
first CUP at 9.2,
Yep.
Precedent conditions A1B and A1D would be struck,
Okay,
leaving precedent conditions A through F as the new numbering.
A through F. Precedent conditions A through F. Subsequent conditions,
Then precedent conditions 2, B1 through B through G, and 3. Everything, only A changed.
okay. All right. Again, read into the record and modified with Alec's help. Would someone like to make a motion to grant conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. I think that's it, right?
There's 9.3.
9.3 is to grant the conditional use permit for disturbance of bluffs and buffers for the replacement of existing utility pole structures. And the conditional use permit has precedent conditions 1, or A, sorry,
It will strike 1 from
we'll
this.
strike 1. So it'll be A2, subsequent conditions 1 through 6, correct? All right, would someone like to make a motion to grant the conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9.4 is to grant the conditional use permit, PLCUP 2025-0092 for disturbance of buffers in the Shoreland Protection District for the replacement of existing utility structure 252 and related site work. That is outlined in precedent condition A1 and subsequent conditions B1 through 6. All set, Alex, with that one?
Yep.
Would someone like to make a motion to grant the conditional use permit as outlined?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. Okay, let's move on in our agenda to item 9D, Novus Group. If you read that into the record.
Novus Group, on behalf of St. Paul's School, requests approval for an amendment to an approved site plan and waivers, which doesn't say, but and certain waivers, at tax map lot 723Z13/6, addressed as 16 Dunbarton Road in the Institutional District.
Okay, could we get a staff update on this one?
Yes.
An amended staff update.
Yes. This is a project, came before you back in 2023. It was approved conditionally by the board. It received final approval, was signed. It is completely constructed. It has a temporary certificate of occupancy. There have been a number of minor amendments that were able to go through as administrative approval. However, this one, they wanted to remove sidewalk, and because sidewalk is one of those things that's required per our construction standards, planning board is the only
tool in the
entity
the
that
only-
can waive that.
the only tool in the box
Staff
to do
cannot.
that, huh?
So they have requested an amendment to do that and a waiver to do that, and then a couple other minor things, and they are described in the staff report.
Okay, and reading through it, I thought it was clear, and then I wasn't sure it was clear, is this is not on public land, correct? Okay.
It is all private
On that
property.
campus, and then it's
the
just
entire
adjacent
thing.
to it is the issue as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record?
Morgan Dunson with Novus Group. I'm the civil engineer on the project. As Anne-Marie stated, we are asking for an amendment to our approved site plan to omit a sidewalk that was previously shown along the edge of the existing driveway and along the frontage to the front of the building. St. Paul's School has a temporary occupancy, as stated, and they had like a grand opening day, and they laid down sod, and they really liked the feel of the sod, and so they wanted to keep the sod the same and omit the sidewalk. There is like an overflow parking lot next to the red barn, where there's a sidewalk and there's an existing crosswalk, and that is how people have been going up the road. And it's low traffic, it's a private boarding school, students aren't allowed to have vehicles, faculty all live on site, so.
Okay. Questions from the board? Looks pretty straightforward. Jack?
I'd just like to go on the record, I'm not in favor of this change at all. We had a long discussion on this the first time around and observed conditions of cars going in and out of there, and that was what brought about the fact of having this and having it ADA accessible. There are other locations within the property that cross that same road, and they have crosswalks with ADA ramps on both sides. So I am not in support of granting this change whatsoever.
Okay. Okay, any other comments from the board?
So,
Yep.
a question, and help orient me with this, because I know the front of the building very visibly, and events that are held with that frontage there, and so you're asking to not put the sidewalk at the frontage, right?
Right, it's
Correct,
down the
yep.
side of the parking lot,
Yeah.
down the side, and then crossing over to the auxiliary parking on the other side.
Yep, and I have photos I can show of what it looks like today.
Yeah, I see.
I don't know if I can zoom in on this. This is the main entranceway. It's still going, they're planning on repaving the entire parking lot this summer. So yep, that's the main entrance again. This is the side entrance that goes to Jerome Ridge. More sidewalks that go to Jerome Ridge. There's access to the building from the parking lot and 2 access ways from Jerome Ridge. Down here.
So, ADA access from the additional parking over there, across the street, correct? Is that where you're?
This parking,
Yeah.
this like overflow parking
Yeah,
lot.
the overflow parking lot.
Yeah, that's not associated with our project. The project is just this shared lot with the Alumni Center. We did get a conditional use permit, I believe, back in 2023, and we designed a future parking lot over there.
So my question is the the number of parking spots that is adjacent to that, that does have the ADA access, correct? About how many parking spots, remind me again, I know it may be like in the fine print, but let's just say you have a larger event and someone needing ADA parking or whatnot does have to go in the
Yep,
overflow parking lot.
so during, I've sat in many meetings with St. Paul's about
Yeah.
what do they do when they have larger events. You know, St. Paul's is a large campus.
Yeah.
They have lots of interconnecting sidewalks. They have events everywhere. And they do provide shuttle access for ADA accessibility. If people have to park farther away and need that service, there's a phone number that they provide to people.
For example, graduation.
Yep,
People
a
park far
graduation, I
away.
think they have like a family barbecue.
Yeah, they've already had events there.
Yeah, so for large events, I do know that they will like they'll mark off more handicap spots near the main entrance than is
So
shown.
they will self-mark,
Yep.
I don't know how else to call it, term, help me out. But for larger events,
Yeah.
they will block off
More,
more.
yeah.
How do you do that? I'm just curious, does someone?
They probably have
Okay.
a cement, I don't know, like a sign and cement and they move it around.
We do it, we have an entire parking lot at our school, and we have big events for people who need assistance.
Okay.
Or using wheelchairs or walkers.
Yeah.
That aren't there normally.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yep.
just follow up. It's not just about the ADA access, it's also the fact that you're forcing pedestrians to walk up the driveway, so you're mixing peds and cars. And I can tell you, the observations I've had when I've gone up there and I come in, you know, and take the right into that driveway, I've actually had it where a vehicle was trying to come out, and it's such a tight turn that the vehicle had to scoot all the way over to the curb, and had there been a pedestrian there, that would have been conflict. And they can say they've never had an incident, blah, 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 but this is a new building, it's a lot more intense use than the smaller building that used to be there. The smaller building actually used to have a different sidewalk pattern around it. So I think for pedestrian safety, we definitely got to keep it in. That's, like I said, there was a lot of discussion originally about this when we talked about this the first time.
And I also want to bring up that if you do put a sidewalk there, it won't be ADA accessible. The existing driveway, I believe, is greater than 5%, so.
But it's to the extent practical on the existing.
Yep, and Drone Ridge, I think there are future plans to make Drone Ridge into a pedestrian-friendly road and not have vehicle access along there. There's future campus plans for that, so.
So right now, the proposed plan we got shows the sidewalk, the striped sidewalk going right into the driveway. I imagine if you had a sidewalk there, it would go right into that, correct?
Correct, they'd have to redo the crosswalk striping, so it
Okay.
aligns with the new sidewalk. That was the original plan.
Yep. Okay, other questions, concerns, comments? I don't think there's any member of the audience left to have a question or comment, but I'll ask, no? Okay, any other staff comments or questions or concerns before we close the public hearing? Nope. Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. So again, you've heard the issues, you've heard the reasoning on both sides of the equation. Do we have any consensus on which way we want to look at this? I know, Jeff, you said.
Yeah, I would move to deny the request.
Okay. You've got a second for that?
I would also move to
Okay. So we've got a motion on the table and a second to deny discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, just hands, if you show hands. We've got 2 hands, 3 hands. Okay, so that did not, well, we've got 4 people left, so would someone like to make a motion to approve or do we have approval before we go through the motion piece of it? I would approve it. Just want to know where the approval levels are. Approvals?
We don't have a final vote yet, though.
No,
No.
I'm just,
Oh, okay.
He's
oh,
taking-
sorry, so we had 3, so we have a motion to deny and a second to deny. All those in favor of denying were 3 people, is Amanda, Jeff, Dina, and opposed to the denial was 4, so that motion's down. So let's walk through the variance. I want to make sure we tick off all of the boxes here on the piece. I guess there's really not. 9.0 is, again, using our findings of fact tonight. The information that we heard from the applicant and the application that we saw back in 2023. As our findings of fact, we've got a motion to grant the waiver request below from the stated sections of the site plan regulations based on evidence provided showing that criteria RSA 674-44-3E and section 3608 of the site plan regulations are met, and those are outlined in sections 1602-22 for construction details, 2101 sidewalks general requirements, 2103 connection to public sidewalks, and 2104 accessibility. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the waiver request as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made. Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 3 opposed. So that motion carries. 9.3 is to grant major site plan amendment approval for the removal of a sidewalk. And my understanding is it's not being, well, removed from the plans. Along the driveway of Dunbarton Road and other modifications, and that's outlined in precedent conditions A1 and subsequent conditions B1 through 9. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the major site plan amendment approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Again, 3. That motion carries. So you're all set. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on in our agenda to item 9E.
9E, Richard D. Bartlett and Associates LLC, on behalf of St. Paul's School, requests approval for a minor subdivision application and certain waivers from the subdivision regulations for a lot line adjustment between tax map lot 723Z28-1, addressed as 310 Pleasant Street, and tax map lot 723Z28, unaddressed Pleasant Street, in the medium-density residential district and the open space residential district.
2 unaddressed in one
Yeah,
meeting. That is
I know.
unbelievable. What's wrong with the city? Oh, sorry. All right, let's get a quick staff update on this. Usually we only have one St. Paul School project tonight, but
Well, this is, for any of you that recall, just recently saw that the parent parcel, lot 28, was all one piece, and it just recently went through splitting it into 2 lots, a 1 acre and the remainder, and that's been recorded, all set to go. And then this came through to, in our regulations, it's actually called a re-subdivision, but it's a lot line adjustment to move the lot line of that 1 acre so that the 1 acre will be 3 acres. And that's it.
okay. Staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and recommends opening the public hearing. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete and open a public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record, Mr. Sargent.
Well, my name is Mark Sargent, and I am with the firm of Richard Bartlett and Associates. I'm here tonight representing St. Paul's School, and as Anne Marie mentioned, you might recognize this parcel. We were here before the board back in March. It's located at 310 Pleasant Street, and also a vacant property next door, so there's 2 parcels involved. The 310 parcel has an area of 1 acre with 223 feet of frontage and an existing single-family home. The vacant lot is just that. It's a vacant lot, 26 acres and 464 feet of frontage. The lot line adjustment, again, was approved originally back in March to encompass the home. What St. Paul's would like to do is add an additional 2 acres to the 310 Pleasant Street property, so that gives it a new area of 3 acres. The remaining parcel will be 24.19 acres, and there's no change in the frontage. We did request several waivers, and though they may seem like a lot of waivers, they actually just pertain to mapping the remaining portion of the vacant parcel. We have shown sufficient area on the vacant parcel to prove out a buildable lot. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, questions from the board? No? Okay, any questions from the audience? No, post close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. Again, moving in quickly to our section 9 in our packet, staff recommendation, the findings of fact. We're using as our findings of fact the information we heard here tonight, the information that's in your packet, to determine where we move forward. So let's look at this, break it down in a couple packets here, or a couple pieces. We've got 9.2 is to grant the waiver request below from the listed sections of the subdivision regulations. Again, using RSA 674-36-2N and section 3508 of the subdivision regulations. I'm going to forego reading all those into record, but you can see all of them outlined in the granting of the waiver under items A through K. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the waiver request as outlined?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9.3 is to grant minor subdivision approval for the re-subdivision between 310 Pleasant Street, Lot 28-1, and unaddressed Pleasant Street, Lot 28, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1A through C, and 2 through 5, as well as subsequent conditions 1, 2, and 3. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that minor subdivision approval as outlined?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we're out of time for the night, and we're going to close the meeting quickly. Let's read item 9F into the record if we could, Madam Clerk.
Wilcox and Barton, Inc., on behalf of Arts Alley LLC, request approval for an amendment to an approved site plan at tax map lot 7412Z37, addressed as 20.5 South Main Street in the Central Business Performance District.
All right, let's
No
get
driveways.
a staff update on this. No driveways. Let's get a staff update. if we could.
addresses.
I don't know why Mark had such a hard time last month.
Staff update. This is an amendment to the previously approved major site plan and architectural design review approvals. Staff is recommending conditional approval of both of those items. With architectural design review, we're recommending AR's recommended conditions. I just want to make note that as part of this amendment, it's made clear that the decorative archway previously is removed. There's a gate proposed to go across. The gate pretty much, the only comments, the only recommended conditions pretty much pertain to the gate, both from fire and planning, with a little bit of easement work that we're recommending as condition of approval.
Okay, welcome back to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Erin Lambert.
I'll just show you here, it's real simple. The original approval had, this is the diner, this is the new building, that's the stable, this is the diner. And the original approval had a similar sort of raised bed over on this area, and we were gonna put a fence here. And we were approached by Sal and Bank of New Hampshire Stage and said, listen, we're gonna be working together. This is a shotgun marriage, it's been a long time evolving, and if you put that there, it's gonna separate us from you. We intend to do a lot of outdoor concerts, and even with our acts that are playing at night, have them come down and unelectrified, do a song or two, and get people, and the more you separate it, the harder it is. So we'd like you to make those changes. We couldn't pull this one back because we have structures in there. So that's essentially what we're doing. And then way back when we got the original approval, we had represented to the folks who, Elm Grove, that we would create a gate there. And I think Karen has a comment. I think the easement that we previously gave the CCA for their loading dock encompasses the area, even though that's a design change, and we'll check that. But I think the easement area we gave them for the original loading dock there encompasses the area that in one of the
Because
recommendations.
they already have an access easement to use that, so we'll verify
And
that
they
the
also-
language
yeah, access
encompasses
easement, and
what's
we
there.
gave them an easement to have a loading dock. And it may be a little different area, but I think it may be the same. And then we got rid of the arch because you have to control this from a liquor control perspective. We're getting the same kind of permit. This is not a social district, that bill that's going through the legislature that would let cities open up. Social district encompasses public property. This is not public property, it's private property. So we're getting the same permits they have at Tuscan Village. So somebody could go from the rooftop bar, instead of having to put their drink down and pick up another one here and then pick up another one there, they're going to be able to go back and forth. But in order to do that, you have to control access and not let people underage and things like that. So putting the gate there, because we also have that gate here, which will be locked when we're done. We have no problem with an box. One thing I want everybody to remember, because this is said over and over, there are a lot of references in the report to an alley. This is not an alley. It's never been an alley. It's the front yard. You'll remember, we've now created a condominium, but there were two pieces of property. This was one of them, where the greenhouse was. And then the stable building and this L shape is one property. It's not an alley. It's never been an alley. It's never been a public alley. It's never been a public right-of-way. It is not a right-of-way. It is our front yard. We're going to paint it, and we're actually, one of the reasons we want a gate there is we're going to have a lot of events right in the alley itself. So there are a couple references in the report to alley, which you just sort of strike that. In fact, I looked through, I've been doing it a long time, but I looked through the entire ordinance. The only place I see there's no definition of an alley. The only reference to an alley is in the subdivision regulations. I think it's 2103 talking about showing any alleys you have, but there's no such thing as a defined alley. I'd just like to be clear, because when we were talking to the fire department, they go, well, you've got to give us access over your alley. I said, well, actually, it's my front lawn. And I'm happy to have you come over my front lawn, but there's no alley, no easement, no access, no right-of-way. We gave permission access to the Bank of New Hampshire stage, and frankly, the reason we bought the greenhouse and sat on it for so long is during construction of Bank of New Hampshire stage, Families in Transition said, you're going to put us out of business here, because that's how we load furniture in and out. And then Bank of New Hampshire stage said, what good is it to have a stage if we have to load from the front street? So that's how it came to pass. But that's essentially what we're doing, and we'll check though, but I think the existing easement we gave, not only for access, but for loading dock, already encompasses that area.
What's the red in the bottom right, Steve?
Yep, nope, I wanted to bring that up.
Okay.
So, yeah, so on the last approval, that was a granite curb to create a planter. And what we found when they went out there to set granite curb is there's a drainage manhole there.
Or planning.
There's a drainage manhole there. So instead, we're asking, there'll still be a planter there. It'll just be a movable planter. We just can't inset the granite curb. So we're asking for that to be approved as part of this. And then I blew up, this is the design plan prepared by Terrain Planning that shows the gate. And as Steve is pointing out, so there's a passage door on the concrete sidewalk, and then there'll be a gate that maintains the full width of the pavement. So as recent as today, the architecture team met with Paul Royce, and he agreed that as long as we weren't narrowing that at all, that he was okay with it. And so we will just double check. I think one of the reasons we needed to update the easement is that gate will have to recess onto the Bank of New Hampshire stage property, so we need to just make sure that's all.
I'm not sure it does.
And that's what, I'm not sure that it does. We're definitely working through those fine details to make sure we don't reduce the width in any way, but we're trying to keep the post on Arts Alley's property.
Because at night, one of the challenges is keep visitors unwanted hours there. So there's a very tall fence going in here. That's going to be a lockable gate. This is lockable at night, so we're not there. I mean, we still have some vulnerability because somebody could go, if you've ever been in that parking lot, if they were really resourceful, they could jump up on the roof here and get down. But
So
we have 16 cameras in there, though. That's really cool.
The other thing I bubbled in purple, previously everything was perennials. And one of the challenges we have is that perennials aren't necessarily as vibrant in color. And so if you're familiar with a lot of Steve's properties downtown, he has an ongoing agreement, and those are refreshed with colorful annuals multiple times a year. And so we're requesting permission to have annuals in those locations just to add to the color and the vibrancy of the courtyard.
Just like we do at Smile, Bindery, Capitol Plaza. We like color.
So is the gate, the front gate, what's the material on the front gate?
That's a
metal
great
gate.
question.
And it probably, at some different points, like when we're doing different events, we're gonna have temporary banners there.
Okay.
Originally, we were gonna do the art, just, it was nice and high and said Arts Alley, but you had to put it so high for the fire truck that if you walk in, you go.
So access through, is it, if you can go back up, Aaron?
Yep.
So during the day, is it open, is it closed?
Yeah, it's open
Is it-
during the day,
Okay.
and there'll be times, for example, let's say everything back here is closed, but people are going to the venue, so we had to make sure there would be a gate open to get to the elevator lobby to get up to the venue.
Okay. Across the alley, sorry, across the front lawn, is it, you know, you're gonna be driving vehicles down and through there? Is it a
Only-
swinging gate, or?
It'll be left open during the day,
Yeah.
swings open. There will be driving vehicles really just to load and
Right,
unload.
right.
I mean, we're gonna paint the alley. It's pavement, but we're gonna paint it. We've got a bunch of designs, colorful designs.
So the only thing I wanted to say about the gate was, and I apologize, I didn't mean to cut off Mr. Fox. So on the plan that went to the Architectural Design Review Committee, we had listed black chain link. That the recommendation was that not be, it be more of a decorative fence. We don't have a final yet because we're working closely. It's a 14-foot gate, so there are some structural components that they're working through, some details. So this is an example of what we're looking for, but it will not be chain link. It will be some sort of a ornamental decorative fence.
And most of the time, it's gonna be covered with a banner.
Okay.
Just, can you reiterate why you eliminated the arch? Was that a fire thing?
Yeah, the problem was to put, I love the idea of an arch, but it
I
has
do
to be.
too.
It has to be high enough for the ladder truck to make it underneath.
Oh,
Tall arch. Real tall.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, maybe down the road but Paul said, nightmares that you think you've got it high enough and the truck goes in there and,
it would match the arch at the State House.
great idea.
Jeff?
Not.
I just want to joke with you. You say it's not an alley, but your plan calls it, and you've referred to it to an alley 2 or 3 times
I
in your
know,
conversation.
believe me,
So I
I've-
think you're the one that's referred to
I
it as
know,
an
I've
alley,
given
not
Mark-
us.
I gave Mark Sargent a hard time before he left. I've given her, yeah.
The only thing I have a question is, I understand you're talking with Center New Hampshire and everything. Do we have to have anything in writing from them because they're part of the easement that this encroaches on? So
No.
we know they're in agreement?
I don't think so. I don't even think our gate's on their property. They have an access easement, that's what they have.
So your gate doesn't go all the way to their
No, it
building,
goes
so
all the way
people
across.
can't?
My property, in fact, I had to give them a little bit of property so they could put that balcony structure
So
in.
that
That's-
line right there is not the property line.
It's damn close.
So I'm saying though,
If we need one, we'll get
well,
one.
I'm just saying,
They're
because
on-
you're
they're-
saying the building, that you're saying the gate has to completely close off for
Right.
alcohol.
Right.
So you can't have a gap between the gate and the building.
Right, we don't
I
have
just,
people around outside.
I don't care, I'm all for this,
There-
don't get me wrong,
We'll
Steve.
get the
I just
easement if
want to
we
make
need
sure
one. Yeah.
that there's not a legal issue later that you
No.
don't have permission.
I don't think I'm talking out of school, they've actually asked us to start programming their upstairs space.
Right.
I mean, that's what we do.
It can
We do
literally be
events.
probably an email just saying, yeah, we're in
Yeah.
agreement. That's all I just want to make sure
I think
that.
it's a condition.
I think it's a
too.
condition of the approval for
that's
us to have all the easements in place, so we'll ensure that that happens.
And what this project shows, that if you have an unlimited budget and unlimited time, you can build anything.
Yeah, okay.
I know Pete's probably seen it, and I've done a bunch of projects downtown. This was the hardest site. It's so small, it's so narrow, and every time we dug up, it was like lasagna down
utility.
there. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And the same if you want to have a fun time, if any of the staff or anybody can walk down there, go look at the carriage house, literally. Every layer of floor we took out, every 20 years, they just put in something new. Tar paper, concrete.
New floor.
It's unbelievable.
All right. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? No member of the audience has any questions, so we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony and explaining it. And again, adopting our findings of fact, the information that we heard here tonight, the plans and the comments that we saw in our staff reports and the plan sets as our findings of fact. So 9.2 is to grant architectural design review amendment approval as submitted with the condition that the black chain link fence crossing the alley shall be replaced with a decorative fence. Would someone like to make a motion to approve 9.2 as outlined? We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9.3 is to grant major site plan amendment approval as submitted for the changes to the landscape and hardscape in the courtyard and the addition of a fence and gate across the alley for security at 20 and a half South Main Street, subject to the following conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1A through C, 2A through C, 3, 4, and 5, subsequent conditions 1 through 9. Would someone like to make them? Yep.
Mr. Chair, sorry to,
Yep.
I just, based on some of the comments I heard during their testimony, I wasn't sure if we wanted to amend precedent conditions A1B and A1C to A1B to an easement for the placement. I'm adding operation and maintenance of the fence and gate shall be established unless otherwise determined to not be necessary, as determined by the clerk of the planning board and city solicitor.
Perfect. That's excellent. Good catch.
And then same with item C. The easements, the existing common dock and stairway easement shall be revised unless otherwise determined to not be necessary, as determined by the clerk of the planning board and city solicitor, to encompass the entirety of the newly proposed stair and dock structure and the rest of the components. But
Great.
does that fit?
Perfect.
You're hired.
So you're saying and,
No.
not or? City solicitor and the clerk of the planning.
And
Yeah. Okay. Any other changes, Alex, to the precedent or subsequent conditions?
no, I don't think all the fire comments, you guys were good to satisfy as.
Yeah.
I know you're working with Paul.
Yeah, I think we just want to make sure that if it's to Paul's satisfaction, he determines that it complies, because it's not a fire lane. So there's never been a discussion about it being a fire lane, which has a very technical, but obviously, his input was paramount to the original approval, and it would be, needed to make sure we can still provide access through there.
And his 3 comments are still applicable.
Yeah.
Okay.
So moved.
Would someone like to make a motion to grant major site plan amendment approval as outlined and amended? We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and you are all set.
Steve, when Duke's opens, can you get some good bourbon in this town?
Get some good bourbon.
Sure. I almost put some signs up in the windows because every day when I'm walking up and down Main Street, people go, "When's it gonna open?" My answer now is, "When it's done."
When it's done.
Put a countdown.
Put a countdown clock.
Forget to change it
Time
for a
clock.
couple of days.
If you had an arch, you could put the countdown on the arch.
Yeah.
Put a ball up and we could drop the ball,
All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Okay, let's move on to item 10 in our agenda, other business. We've got a zoning ordinance amendment for compliance with RSA 67439AA2, much to the chagrin of our clerk. If we could read that into the record, or
Yes.
tell us what you'd like.
Zoning ordinance amendment for compliance with RSA 67439AA2. Basically, this has to do with restoration of involuntarily merged lots. And our ordinance right now says that that is allowed as long as you get your application request submitted prior to December 30th, 2021. Which of course has long gone because we're now in 2025. And not only that, the state changed that legislation and did away with the expiration date. So this ordinance amendment essentially just removes that expiration date.
And that's really all that was in there, right? is
That's all that was in there.
Was submitted by in a certain dates. Okay, so that looks pretty straightforward. And again, I think a
We have to
recommendation.
comply with it whether it's there or not, so.
Mr. Chairman, my only comment is, I want to clarify if it's a spelling mistake or not. 5A, second sentence says, "In that case, all subsequent owners shall be e-stopped from requesting." Is that the correct word?
E-stopped.
Or should it be stopped?
Well, city solicitor prepared this, so you have it up there.
Probably stopped.
Second sentence.
E-stopped.
Is that E5?
I'd have to, I think it may be e-stopped.
I think it might be as well.
Yeah.
There's no lookup.
'Cause-
How do I
Because,
search that?
estoppel is.
The owners be
Yeah.
stopped from
So,
requesting
I
restoration.
believe that
Look
e-stop
at
is
that.
correct.
My iPad's telling me what the answer is. The municipality shall have the
Before I
burden,
could even-
the burden of
That's all-
proof
I
to
just
show
wanted to
that
make
any
sure, I
previous
mean,
owners
it could be,
voluntary
we could have
merged.
approved it with a back check, but
E-stopped is in the record and correctly used, so, good question though, Jeff. I missed that completely.
Search.
Okay. And it's a municipal word. It's like,
It is
Shall be stopped from requesting
Yeah.
restoration.
part of estoppel.
okay.
so-
Okay.
I move to approve as written.
motion's been made to.
Oh, recommend
To city
approval,
council.
sorry.
Recommend to city council for approval of
Approval
the
as written.
ordinance as written. Do we have a second?
Still, I second it.
Still you second it. Any further discussion? Anyone want to stop on that? Let's, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so that'll be recommended up to city council, and I believe that brings us to any other business which may legally come before the board. I know that's everyone's topic of conversation. Anything else? No? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.